here from Adonis Athletics, and today I'm joined by new guy in our crew, Alex Fielding. He's going to be our new guy here pretty much permanently, taking care of the rehab and everything like that of our athletes, of me, myself. And as you can see, I've been in the middle of training sessions. But what Alex is going to do today on his first episode that he's going to be featuring on is talking about a very common problem, and that's hip problems, especially hip impingements. So we're going to go through some symptoms of hip impingement and talk about how to identify it, how to get rid of it, how to manage it at least, until you can see somebody as good as this guy, so you can make it go away. Hit me, Alex.
Yeah, cool. So one of the normal big things that we see common with powerlifters and Olympic lifters is pain at the front of the hip, particularly in the bottom of the hole with a squat, or when trying to flex above 90 degrees there. So one of the components is we get this hip impingement, so we need first to figure out what's going on with that, whether it's from a bony perspective or it's a little bit of soft tissue in the muscles around it. Because if it's the bony component, we can foam roll that out, stretch that as much as possible, but we're not going to make any progress on it. Whereas if it's a soft tissue issue, we can do some work, we can rehab it and move it up from there. In terms of the bony one, it's a fairly common one. It's called a femoroacetabular impingement, and it's a fairly simple way we get to modify somebody's squat so they can keep training pain-free and still be able to hit the marks they want to do. And it's just a matter of moving their legs a little bit wider or turning it out and finding a good position for clearance for them. So a really simple way we can test and assess that is I'll get Amir to lie down on the ground for us here.
On the back?
Yep. Is we're looking through the range of the hip. So there's a couple of things that first we want to have a look at. We first have a look at sort of the internal rotation and the external rotation of the hip, and Amir's got quite good internal rotation, and then we sort of drive that forwards. What we're looking for is to see if there's any pain or catching as he's moving forwards. And he's fairly good here. So with Amir, we could have quite a narrow stance with the squat and get away with it. What a lot of people will find though is they get caught and it gets catch and they get that pain right basically through that component of the hip. So what we do is that we can move that out and find a clearer path. So
I feel like you can definitely go much further out.
Yeah, so even Amir with his good movement, we get that lock there.
Pain,
but we drop that there, we can still get a hell of a lot more clearance there. So with me, that sort of moderate sort of size width with his stance will probably be fairly effective to ensure he's getting good depth to his squat and keeping his hips in good health. Cool.
Okay. So basically, it's basically a case of like how people are built, right? So if it's built in a certain way, because you know you get some people say sort of like set in stone sort of thing. Your feet must be this wide, or it must not be like more than this angle, or you know. Whereas I've seen through the years, many people can easily stand like this, for example, which may look weird to me or somebody else, but they squat perfectly fine, whereas I could never squat like that.
Absolutely. So it's all about appreciating the person in front of you's anatomy. Some people's hips, they flare out a bit wider. They can have a different angle on the femur, so the big bone that connects up into the hip. Yep. And it's really important to have a look at, take all those aspects into consideration when determining whether someone should be a little bit wider or a little bit narrower, or determining the angle on the hips.
Okay.
Even with some people, they can have one leg turned out slightly more than the other, and that's purely based on the anatomy of that as well.
So one foot can be like slightly asymmetrical to the other one, and that still be fine?
Yeah, as providing that goes along with their anatomy and what's going on with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is it? It's just a case of people, when they're starting out training, just trying out different stances and see which one feels better?
Yeah,
and just picking out one?
Yeah, exactly. So it's looking at how it's put together to find out what works best for them. Yeah. But if they are, the important part of this is that if they are getting any pain or discomfort with the front of the hip, and if that's not, if change in the stance isn't effective to alleviate that pain, that's where our role comes in to try and put in some exercises or put in some soft tissue work or strategies in place to try and keep that person moving on to achieve the goals that they're trying to achieve.
Okay. What about people who there are people who I've come across who've been training for quite some time? They're not beginners.
Yep.
They're definitely like at an intermediate stage, right?
Yep.
They've been squatting the same stance, the same everything. Nothing's ever been wrong before. All of a sudden, they're getting pain here, and they've been diagnosed as like impingement of the hip. So in cases like that, what do you recommend as the first course of action to at least manage the pain or make it go away? So I've heard of like people being told by physios to do like a box squat maybe, so they stop just before the pain is felt. Is there any other kind of management procedures or strategies that you have that are similar to that people can use?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple of things that we can have a look at there. First of all is, you can modify it in terms of the height, and then once again we can change their angle a little bit, how they're moving, to try and provide a bit more depth with that. Other things that can be quite good with those impingement things is, if you think of the hip a lot like the shoulder, if we get good control of the muscles that stabilize that hip and keep that in place, we are able to centralize that a bit more to allow a bit more efficiency of movement. Just like rotator cuff injuries of the shoulder, the cuff of the hip per se is something that we can do some stability type exercise and balance exercises with it to ensure that it's not banging around as much and causing that pinch in the hip.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Hope that helped you guys out. Hope, I mean, if you guys got any impingement sort of issues or anything like that, obviously don't try and just like manage it as long as possible. You have to go and see somebody to try and get it fixed. If you're around here and you can get in to see us, I definitely recommend Alex. He's going to be here at Adonis Athletics GRANVILLE location on a regular basis. You can book him in. Whereabouts? What other places are you at that they can find you at?
So the clinic, Your Health Sport and Spine. So we've got our clinic up in the medical centre at Dural, and then we're up here at GRANVILLE on a Wednesday afternoon, a Friday afternoon. Feel free to get in contact with us on www.duralchiropractor.com.au, or feel free to give us a call on 9651 1395.
All right, we'll be around for more episodes down the track. Keep an eye out.